you can choose any famous person in the world to show up at your funeral to cause the biggest confusion possible. Who do you pick and why? Went to a family funeral a few years ago and there was a guy there who sat in the back who looked exactly like Abraham Lincoln. Asked another family member who the Abraham Lincoln looking guy was and he said, "Dude, I dunno, maybe that is him." Anyway, he never spoke to anyone and quietly left right as the service ended. We never did figure out who it was, but a few people vaguely remembered a friend of the deceased who bore a resemblance to him. So yeah, I want someone who looks just like Abraham Lincoln to quietly sit at my funeral and confuse the heck out of people. Tommy Wise, foreign writer, producer, and lead actor of The Room. People have to watch the entire movie before the reception to receive anything in my will. It will pause if anyone goes to the bathroom so everyone watches every last excruciating minute. Tommy fake cries with horrible acting and runs out of the funeral home. Probably some random eccentric billionaire that is relatively unknown. Bonus points if they don't speak English. Like, just some random Chinese dude rolls up in a only 10 made car and is flanked by 2 exotic cats, dressed in the fanciest clothes that transcend normal fashion, and has a team of aides by his side. He says nothing and leaves before the reception, leaving my friends and family to wonder lol. Same, massive confusion, especially if he spoke during about how I was just the best, so beautiful, too young, so sad. She always said I really did win the election, and she knows computers. You know, well, she didn't say it but she certainly thought it, because I did win, bigly, and she knew it and you know it. Kawai because he delivered the most brilliant, confusing, seemingly totally off-the-cuff but hilarious eulogy I can imagine, and everything he said would go over the head of anyone I know. But if I had to choose someone already dead, George Carlin, no question. If they have to be alive then Robert Pattinson because Twilight, and also depending on when, what's Batman doing here? But if it can be a dead famous person then we'll go with Queen Victoria because everyone knows I'm obsessed. But none of my friends or family remember what she looks like or most things I gush about her. It would be amusing to watch as ghost as everyone tries to figure out who she is, and what she's talking about. I bet half of them would think she's a friend from a historical club. I'm not sure who, but I think I might get a bunch of unknown actors to come to my funeral wearing mysterious robes. One would approach my coffin and say the order will remember you. You shall be avenged. Then all of them will do some sort of hand gesture, then leave without answering any questions. Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles they ask a bunch of weird questions about me and say their names are Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley. Jeffrey Dean Morgan shows up and seems surprised to see them there saying this was his job. They'll ask my family where I'm being buried then they'll find out that I've been cremated. Did you keep anything of hers? A lock of her hair maybe? Which my family will have kept. Then they salt my lock of hair and then light it on fire. It'll be sad, great, and all the panties will hit the floor, which is all I want. The Sultan of Brunei. I have absolutely no ties to anyone or anything relating to him, and am a white woman in Australia, so to have him turn up would be surreal and would probably make the news. He'd sit at the back, ignore all bodyguard protocol as he walked to the front and asked my loved ones if he could spend a few minutes quietly pondering over my coffin, and then he'd walk back to his seat at the back of the room. Jeffrey Epstein, considering he's probably dead, seeing him in the flesh would be quite the shock, but of course, with what he did, him showing up to some rando's funeral unexplained would raise even more questions. Assuming I only have resurrection power for the duration of the funeral, his subsequent sudden disappearance would just be the icing on the cake. Pat Monahan. Anyone who knows me knows that I love music, and that I hate the music of the band Drain. I don't hate the band, I know nothing about them and they may be perfectly lovely human beings, but I hate their songs to an almost religious fervor, so the best way to confuse everyone would be for Monahan to show up with a hand-addressed and signed invitation, and then, as a bonus, all my friends could tell him, in exact detail, just how much I hated his stupid vapid clouds without water horse shit excuses for songs. I'm dead, everyone is confused, and Pat Monahan gets his feelings hurt. That's how you do a funeral. Bill Gates, who arrives in my car and leaves a note by my casket that reads "Thank you for the advice and money," then leaves without speaking to anyone at my funeral. Just leave my family and friends in utter confusion as to what advice did I give Bill Gates and why on earth did I lend money to one of the richest guys in the world. Also leave them wondering why on earth was Bill Gates driving my car. And then to top it off, Melinda Gates comes by minutes later and leaves an engagement ring by my casket. Now my family and friends are even more confused, wondering if I was engaged to Bill Gates' soon ex-wife. Okay, can I have John Wick? Like, I know that's Keanu Reeves, but I want the John Wick version. And I want him to stand at the very back and not talk to anyone, so people will either think I had this scandalous affair with a mysterious hot side piece, or that I had this crazy badass double life of killing people who kill other people's dogs. Tom Hanks. If my dad saw him there, he would shit his pants. This would be at my wake. I would want someone to ask him how he knew me, in a way that draws attention to him, only for Mr. Hanks to just calmly say, "Oh, well, he was a fan of mine, or at least he used to be. He became such a good friend. More than a friend, really. He was like a son to me. He wrote such beautiful letters, and we used to have the funniest little get-togethers at his estate in Silicon Valley. Just a great guy, you know." Trail off a bit, then kiss my forehead and leave. First off, I need to be buried in a suit with an exterior breast pocket. Danny DeVito will arrive with the name tag claiming his name is John Smith. He will solemnly place a $5 bill in my pocket and say, "I never did pay you back." Then he leaves. If asked, he must deny his identity. I think Ryan Reynolds throwing himself on my coffin and pretending to be my grieving lover would cause maximum confusion, hilarity, and conflicting emotions from my female relatives who would be so tempted to hit on him, yet not sure if a funeral was appropriate timing. I only wish I could be there to watch. Rick Astley, I'd have him kick the door open and run to my casket, start doing the "Never Gonna Give You Up" dance, and singing "Oh God Gave You Up." Oh yeah, you let him down. You were running around, without purpose. You made your family cry. Yeah, you always just wanted to say goodbye. Yeah, you always told lies, and hurt people. Anyone, including dead people. Hitler. Obviously that would confuse many people concerning he is dead and he is damn Hitler. Also a Nazi at your funeral would probably freak some people out. Alive. Kim Jong-un's sister. Obviously that would be confusing for my family as I don't have a relationship especially with her, so she's just there. Dave Bautista and The Rock to beat the ever-loving shit out of my coffin till it's obliterated, then run off with my body, then together they impale my rotting body on the top of the Burj Khalifa while dressed as anime girls while singing "Genius of Love" by Tom Tom, and it doesn't have to be both of them, and also my body should stay there forever, and I want a huge statue made out of pure diamond right in front of the Oval Office. Neil Armstrong. He would salute and single tire. I was the best astronaut nobody ever heard about. On purpose, I was Earth's first ambassador to the stars. 7,000 plus races across the galaxy are watching this very moment with Neil remotely. Only he knows. Only he knows of my greatness. Thanks for being there, Neil. I know Buzz is into this kind of shit, but you were my guy. See you in the stars. Hitler. My family would be very confused and it might even cause some panic. My family would likely wonder why they are there. assuming nobody kills him right then and there. If they even think he is real, there would be a bit of panic. If that made it to the news and people believed it, there would be lots of panicking nationwide. I wonder how long it would take before somebody killed him? Just roll a dice and pick an option. Terry Crews satisfies the confusion factory while still being fun. Could probably cheer everyone up. Same with The Rock. Someone else mentioned Gary Busey. He seems like an okay guy that got fucked by one bad decision. Confusion is there. Give him something to do, and apparently he used to live here, so that would probably add to the confusion. Brendan Fraser. It'd be a shame to only meet him in death, but I watched a bunch of his movies a few months ago and not only did I still like them, some of them were better than I remembered. It's bullshit what happened to him. I don't know who to pick for the other two sides that I'd want to have at my funeral and would cause sufficient confusion, so I'll just say two of my favorite VAs, Darren Dopole and Carolina Ravassa. Edit. As soon as I posted this I scrolled down and saw I left out Keanu Reeves. Sixth side can be a coin flips between the VAs. Gonna be real. I really want Trump or Alex Jones to be at my funeral. If those old assholes find a way to put their head in a jar or something, cuz good luck outliving a 26-year-old. Politically and socially speaking, I'm on the polar opposite end of the spectrum, but certain members of my family aren't educated, so they just got on board with the whole Earth is a sphere thing. Thanks a lot, I guess. It'd be hilarious to see how they deal with the fact that this person they've despised garnered the attention of their second coming of Jesus. By God, that stone cold Steve Austin's music. Lord, no, think of the children stunners. The priest jumps on top of my coffin, beers flying from out nowhere, shotguns them and leaves. Also Mike Tyson shows up crying his eyes out and leaves one of his belts on my coffin. It should have been me, champ. Carrot Top with his trunk, constantly digging things out of it while repeatedly muttering my name. It's a very common Spanish first and last name, and I hope this is the right one. Followed shortly by a very hammered Louis C.K. They then get into a fist fight over who gets to dig through my pockets. Then out of nowhere RuPaul rolls up in full cop drag, brandishes a nail gun, uses it to seal my coffin, and chases them off with it. Elias Mbarek. He is a German actor who is part Tunisian, same as me. My first name is similar to Elias, so friends always drew a connection and were jokingly calling me Elias Mbarek, and someday I just went with it and jokingly said that he is my cousin. It would confuse all of them if he would appear and act that he knew me good and regrets not spending more time with me the past years cause of his career. Michael Keaton, in full Batman costume and makeup, just perched on a church roof, or in the rafters or whatever for the majority of my funeral. Then right before they take me away for burial or cremation or what have you, he drops from his hiding place, and leaves a black mask on my dead guy chest, shedding a single tear and not saying a word before disappearing again. They might not be famous enough, but probably the Reddit user fish_fucker69, and so people recognize them. They would wear a revealing swimsuit, goggles and a name tag that said my Reddit user is fish_fucker69. I would also request for them to bring a giant bucket of water and splash it on themselves when everyone else is looking at them, and waddle over to someone and be like, hey, where is the nearest sushi bar? Since everyone has done controversial world leaders and Keanu Reeves, for cool points, how about Arnie in Terminator makeup, pump one round into my coffin, hasta la vista, and march out, or as John Matrix, one round. He always wanted to go out with the bang. For confusion, Mr. Bean. Matt Ryan as John Constantine. He stands at the back and mutters quietly in Latin. After the service ends, he approaches my grave and drops a single item into it, before anyone has a chance to approach him or check what he's holding. As I was an original, he says, before turning and walking away, slowly. Only one family member would understand this and properly lose their shit in a giggling fit. Do we get to pick what they do, or does the person just show up, pay their respects and leave? Do they have to be alive? I'm going to give two answers, one if it can be anyone throughout history, and one if they have to be alive. If they have to be alive, Jason Statham, have him just stand in the back silently. My family would get so confused. If it can be anyone throughout history, Kurt Schrader. I'm a massive WW2 buff, and he was a German commander who fought alongside the Americans and the former French Prime Minister during the Battle of Castleder. My family are not history buffs, only my great-grandfather would possibly recognize him. Not a veteran, just also a history buff. I talk history with him all the time. The rest of my family would be confused on why a German was attending my funeral, and would only get more confused if they asked him anything. The memorial song will be Nippon Manju by Lady Baby, performed by Lady Beard and special guests Baby Metal, with CP Terra Dragon Force. 9 small cute girls singing Japanese, a 6'2" Australian man in a dress growling random Tokyo suburb names, whilst a bunch of Brits play ridiculously loud speed metal. Herman destroys a guitar solo, Sam plays while drinking half a bottle of Jack Daniels through a straw, and Lady Beard suplexes my little brother into a ball pit. Everyone chants Sam's a CT whilst mashing in the aisles, and my mother and extended family stand there in open-mouthed confusion at what in the seven hells is going on. A bunch of people in black suits and glasses, preferably Italian, show up, around 5 or 6 of them. They stand in the back the entire time looking solemn and not talking to anyone and not responding to anyone. Then, at the end when everyone starts to leave, they walk up to my casket and touch my hands, kiss my face and say things like "We're gonna miss you, boss, and we'll take care of things for you." And if I could get a celebrity, I would have someone like the Queen of England come briefly, and the Italian people would nod in respect and recognition to her. Then they have something to do and leave after only being there for a bit. Everything else proceeds as normal. Brian Blessed. Anytime someone mentions me by name, he gets another shot of whiskey. At the 5-drink mark, he has to stand abruptly and say "Adam's alive." When the casket rolls behind the curtain, he should say "Hawkman, alive." Bonus points if someone can release a bunch of homing pigeons right outside the nearest window at that moment. Brian must not know about the pigeons beforehand. Justin Trudeau. I just imagine myself being a below-average Canadian citizen getting the full attention of the Prime Minister for him to come to my funeral along with my family and friends. I don't exactly like the guy, but he's the current one we got, so till it changes it'll be him seeing me get buried in the dirt without a casket. Either him or Ryan Reynolds, my favorite Canadian actor. I scrolled for a while and I still haven't seen Robin Williams. I'd definitely have him come to my funeral, give a strangely light-hearted yet motivational speech about taking mental health seriously, have him clearly torn up about my death, and have him say thank you for the help back in 2014 inches over my coffin. Did I help kill him? Did I help him fake his death? Did I help him with his mental health? No one will ever know, and no one will see him again. Chaotic good Robin Williams. Maybe someone famous dressed up as like the Grim Reaper. That would be cool. I'd like Keanu Reeves at my funeral dressed as a Grim Reaper. Or just get death from Bill and Ted Smile. Tony Hawk. I can't skate. Everyone would be like, he's Hawk. Haha, like Tony Hawk. But it wouldn't be Tony Hawk, cause McFly couldn't skate. So it couldn't possibly be him. See how long it takes for people to realize it's the man himself. If they ever do, that'd amuse me. If they don't have to be living, George Carlin. If they do have to be living, then I'm going to steal someone else's answer and say, the Pope. As an atheist it would be very interesting and leave people questioning it for years. I'd choose someone who died recently because, well, it would firstly be funny to see everyone's reactions, But at the same time I'd technically be bringing someone back from the dead in exchange for myself, and that's pretty cool. If we're not allowed deceased people though, well, never considered this one. Probably gonna get lost in the mix. But Matt Berry, I'd love to see the look on my family's faces as he yells "my son" at the top of his lungs, and pumps his fist in the air.